Hey, it's Aquontis Garlington, Monterey County's best new real estate agent. Last week, I had the great honor of participating in Coldwell Banker's very first Agents of Change panel here in Northern California, where we talked about diversity and inclusion in the real estate industry. So, as promised, you have a front row seat to it all. So, sit back and enjoy.
To kind of introduce who we've got on the virtual stage here with me today. I have to just say, these four people here with me, I've had the pleasure of hearing them speak about their background, and we've spent a couple different times kind of preparing for this. But, they don't just represent diversity. They represent, first of all, like very successful real estate agents doing a fabulous job, but really, you guys are making a difference and really making an impact. So it is like truly my pleasure you are on the Coldwell Banker team and to have you here today. So thank you. So really quick, I'm just going to give a super high level because I know you guys are going to dig into a little bit of your background and your involvement. But first of all, we've got Aquontis Garlington. Hi, Aquontis. He is joining us from the Carmel Rancho office. I know Aquontis is involved in a couple nonprofits that really advocate and support home ownership. He is also involved, which I know he'll dig into, on the local government affairs committee for the Association of Realtors, and in 2020 was voted the best new agent in Monterey County. So congratulations on that, Aquontis. That's fabulous. And then also we have with us Janice Lee. Hello, Miss Janice from the San Francisco Sunset office. Also, super impressive background has been with us. Society of Excellence agent with Coldwell Banker. I know she has also received. You're on the ARIA A-list award like all the time, so she's done a fabulous job in that world. And then we also have Antonio Cardenas with us. Cardenas, hello, Antonio. How are you? He is from our Sacramento Metro office. Glad to have you with us. Now, Antonio, I know you were like number 49 of the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. You ranked number 49 nationally, I believe, in the Northwest, right?
Right. Yep.
With us. So that's amazing. Congratulations. And I know you are also involved, I think, Vice President of Habitat Humanity for Young Professionals Network as well, which I know you'll probably touch on. And then, of course, Louise, who we know about a little bit as the Vice Chair, also I know you serve on the nominating committee as well. And highly regarded. I think you were Rookie of the Year at Coldwell Banker as well, President's Circle. So we are really glad to have you guys with us. So to kind of kick things off, like I said, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background. I've got a long list of impressive things you guys have done, but I know firsthand in hearing you guys kind of tell your story, it's far more impactful. So I'd love to just have you tell us a little bit about your background and kind of how you got into real estate. So Aquontis, I'm just going to kind of follow my site here. So I'll start with you.
Well, good morning, everybody. Like Jennifer said, I'm Aquontis Garlington, but you can always call me Q if you decide to. I'm a military kid. My parents both spent 21 and 23 years in the military, so we've traveled the world, met a lot of different people. We lived in literally every state possible. And a lot of people ask me, well, if you're from, the East Coast, I'm from Atlanta. How in the world did you end up in California? And I'm like, look, I'm military. Like, I just go somewhere, establish myself, and do what I feel is best. But I have traveled all over the place. I've done so much. And, one of the biggest things for me that has always stuck is community, family, and friends. Like, because I have to get to know people every 2 to 4 years over and over and over again, I'm someone who loves to talk to people, loves to make friends, loves to connect with people. So, that's a little bit about me. I don't want to tell my entire life story, but that's who I am.
Awesome. I love it. Janice, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I came to the U.S. when I was 4 years old with my mother and sister. We came here with only $300 to our name. And so we lived in single room occupancy. where we had to share a bathroom and a kitchen with other people, and we also lived in low-income housing. So after I graduated from college, my mother forced me to buy a home. So we bought in an up-and-coming area in San Francisco. And I thought at the time there was a lack of education around the process. And I worked in nonprofit management at the time, running after school programs and internship programs. So they got me very interested in real estate. I wanted to be the person educating others about the home buying process and to be the trusted advisor. And I believe that real estate gives you a chance to build wealth, and it also has unlimited potential. And that's what attracted me to real estate.
Great. Antonio, how about you? A little bit about you?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Sacramento. Literally went from, being homeless, living on the river, as a kid in foster care, and kind of got my head on straight with some great mentors in life, and joined the Marine Corps, went to school, got my degree, and now I get to help and bless so many people, who are first time homebuyers here achieve kind of the American dream, which is home ownership. So I get to do that on so many different levels. I literally just closed on a house last week, and the person is literally in their 50s, first time home buyer, and amazing journey for them to get here. So, I just live my career with a passion, and it's so much fun.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that. Louise, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how real estate came into your life?
Sure thing. Good morning, everyone. I was born and raised in San Francisco. Both my parents were born in Mexico. My dad actually was sort of forced out of school in the 5th grade to start working and helping the family out. My mom made it through high school. They both immigrated to San Francisco with the idea that, my sister and I would have a better opportunity than they had. And the one thing that my dad started, even though when he was working the fields here originally, he always had the idea of home ownership. And he says that he had too many of his friends and colleagues, and you see this a lot in immigrant communities, where the goal was to make money and quote unquote go back home. And what he decided was like, this was his home. And in order to have a home and to have a say, real estate was the way to start, right? So the first thing he was able to do was to purchase a home where my sister and I were raised. And I was able to see almost immediately what a difference homeownership does. My cousins and my friends who were living in rental situations, there was so much insecurity. There was so much moving here and there, and never knowing what the landlord situation was going to be or so forth. The fact that we owned a home, I always felt a sense of security. There's always there was roots in the neighborhood, and we were part of. An example I can think of is I live in a condo now, and when we have our HOA meetings, the homeowners are the ones who actually participate and state what's going on, as opposed to the renters, which is something I've always, like I said, kept in the back of my mind. And so that led me. I had a previous career as an attorney, but I always had the idea that I want people to settle, to create, to establish themselves, and by doing so, creating a voice for themselves amongst the community. And homeownership, I think, is one of the primary ways of doing so. And that's why I'm a Coldwell Banker now.
Totally. I love that. I love that. So first of all, just a reminder, if you guys have questions for any of the panelists, put them in the chat because we'd love to get to those at the end. I think just hearing just for a brief amount of time from you guys, I'm super inspired, and I'm really proud of everything you guys have done and the impact that you're making. I think, as an industry, we've talked about this a lot, and I think part of this, DEI conversations that we're all part of is really about learning and listening and just getting better equipped. I know as an industry, we have a lot of makeup work to do, right? There's a pretty big gap in some of the things that we're experiencing. So both, gaps within the agent population as well as our clients, and upholding fair housing practices and how to help build generational wealth opportunities. So from your guys' perspective and what you're seeing, what work do you still think needs to happen to kind of help bridge those gaps? I mean, I think clearly there's some good things happening, but there's still a lot of work to do. So what are you guys thinking as far as what needs to bridge the gap there? I'll just open that up for conversation for you guys. Janice,
I think we need to be Sorry, I think we need to be inclusive of all people and not be divided. And we need to all create and participate in networks like Kriya, Arya, NAREP, and others, just so that we can support each other and not be entirely separate. We also need to provide incentives for people who are underrepresented, and similar to what Luis was talking about, having grants that support homeownership, or even grants that help agents get in and survive in real estate. Another thing is just to be active and be a voice for the real estate and property ownership. So there are different mortgage programs that a lot of people aren't aware of, and they feel like, just like Carmen said, that there are programs less than 20%, and people need to be educated about that.
Yeah, so like more communication, right? Resources, tapping into what we have and how to like carry that forward, right, Janice? Q, I think you had your hand up too. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, so one of the reasons I got into real estate was to represent my generation, because we're poorly educated around why homeownership is important, as well as making sure that representation is key. Like that's my phrase, that's my motto. I use that all the time, and I find that there's a lack of representation in broker ownership, which we work on very profusely. There is a lack of representation when it comes to homeowners, as well as real estate agents and realtors across the country. And so one of the things that I talk to people a lot about is using my voice as a power. Like, I use all my social platforms, everything I can, to really talk about the issues of diversity, the issues of inclusion, the issues of systemic racism within a lot of different industries in the US. And, I think that the first and important thing is making sure that we use our voices and not be scared to say what we need to say, and try to bring about that change. Because a lot of the time, for people of color, you talk about the issues at home, you leave that at home and go into your professional settings and just keep your head down and work. For me, I like to disrupt a little bit and make sure that, we have those conversations about, why it's important to make sure that Black individuals are educated around why generational wealth can be built the best by owning a home. I think that a lot of people are scared to say, hey, people of color are at a disadvantage, and here's the reasons why I'm doing what I do to work towards those programs. So I think the biggest thing that, as agents, as people with platforms, as people with voices, is to use our voice as power, rather than allowing the norm of yesterday to say, hey, don't talk about those type of things. Just go out there, be an agent, sell homes, and that's it. I think we need to make sure that we talk about the issues day in and day out, because if we don't talk about them, nothing will change.
Yeah, Q, you bring up a really good point that I think, I've been in the industry for 20 years, and I think there's been this change of, in the industry, what you should or shouldn't be talking about as a real estate agent, right? It was almost like you have to be really careful. And I think now there's been this great shift, and I'm really proud we're with a company that really embraces this and helps give us some language and some support and advocacy around this, because like you said, we have a platform and we have the ability to really have a voice that is critical. So I absolutely love that. Do you, Antonio, Louise, do you guys have some thoughts on some other things to kind of bridge the gaps on what we're seeing?
Yeah,
I was going to follow up, but go ahead, Antonio.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things that we're doing, especially with Habitat, is really trying to not just have folks be prepared and ready to be first-time home buyers or to be homeowners, but I think coming down to the base level, and this is something that I think all of us as realtors out there can do, is really provide a platform for folks to learn how to manage their money, manage their credit, be in a ready position. I think so far too often, especially from a minority standpoint, that we're in this, I got to work, I got to trade time for money. And we're never really taught how to allow the money that we do make, whether it's a substantial amount or not, how do we allow that money that we do make to make us more money? And so I think creating that platform and giving folks, those resources and those tools so they can, learn about things, so they can learn about just investing. What's a 401k plan? I mean, there's so many of us out there that it's kind of mind-boggling. Almost don't know what 401k is, or what a retirement plan is, or any of these things. And so showing them, giving them avenues to learn about those things. So I think it'd be great from all of us as realtors on the individual level to be able to create those platforms. Host a home buying seminar. Talk about financial literacy. Talk about those things. How can we really, use the money that we do make to allow us, to grow that wealth.
Yeah, I was going to follow up on that as well. That,
Go ahead,
like Q said, one thing I really appreciate about CB doing this is the fact that it has to come from the top down, that diversity is a strength, right? Diversity is not a favor. It's not something that will helping somebody out. It's a strength that helps the company grow and helps the community grow. But I think it's really important that we keep in mind diversity is simply the first step. Diversity needs to lead to inclusion, right? So there are maybe people that are not comfortable speaking, maybe as we are on the panel here, and for a variety of reasons. Maybe when I first started out, I would keep my mouth quiet a little bit more than I would now that I'm a little more settled. And so for those people, it's really important that you're out there, you're successful, whether successful in business, successful in life. Just be out there and show yourselves. And sometimes we gain so much just by seeing people, just seeing them in positions. And on that track, I think it's really important that we lead this diversity into inclusion, into leadership track. Right? It's great to have a diverse office, but it's really important to have a diverse management level, a diverse ownership level, in all the different situations. I think that's really going to be a key.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely. So, one of the things I think is we, attract talent, right? To whether it's our company and, like you said, also in our leadership roles. Like, I think understanding, why Coldwell Banker. And so for you guys, like, was there something that why did you pick Coldwell Banker? Was there a reason that you chose that, or a reason that you are still with us that is impactful to you?
For me, I talked about this in one of my YouTube videos and why I joined Coldwell Banker last summer. And one of the biggest things is familiarity. Not only is it a brokerage that a lot of people know about, but both my parents are brokers in North Carolina. So, they sell homes, they charge with this mission of getting people into home ownership in North Carolina. So when I first started, and I love this story. I love talking about Todd so much because he's an amazing person, my manager. But I decided, okay, cool. I've been in retail for forever, like a long time. I was in leadership and all that. And so I decided, okay, yeah, I want to do what my parents are doing, is getting people into home ownership now. So I started, getting my coursework together. I started, doing everything I needed to. And the first thing I thought about was reaching out to brokerages. So I reached out to Coldwell Banker, Keller Williams, Century 21. The only person to respond to me was Coldwell Banker, and that was Todd Porteous in my office. And he was like, hey, congratulations on being on your path. Hit me up once you've passed the test. And so, I went through all that. It took about 3 months to get prepared. And I reached out to him again, like, hey, do you have any advice before taking the test? Yada, yada, yada. Again, he was very graceful in responding, like, hey, good luck. Here's my advice. Here's some courses you could probably take, And then I passed first try. I contacted him like, hey, I'd love to interview you to talk about, my real estate career. Again, I reached out to several other brokerages, and he was the only one to respond. So, it was like, okay, hey, I'm reaching out to all these other brokerages and they're not responding. That's probably how they're going to treat me when I actually sign on to them. So talking with my father and my mother, who are both, brokers with Coldwell Banker already, as well as already building that relationship with Todd, really brought me in. And, the reason I've stayed also is because I'm able to talk about the different issues that we have around diversity and inclusion all over the industry. And I'm not afraid to put that out there because I know my brokerage actually supports it and is talking about those same issues.
Great.
I've been with Coldwell Banker my entire 16-year career. I've been a banker, is partially because of my wonderful manager
We're losing Janice a little bit. I know her wonderful manager is Gordon Wong, so I know that's happening.
I mean,
Hey, Janice,
just the fact that he has my back, and when I have issues,
Go ahead. You're
when I
cutting
have
in and out.
issues, he's always there.
Yeah, I would follow up with the same thing that both the previous speakers said. My first motivation to join Coldwell Banker was the international footprint. And once I actually joined and got involved with Jen Blue, it's an amazing experience to go out to his conference once a year and meet people from literally all over the world, right? And it's amazing how many times you can learn little tidbits that might be common in their market that we can put to use in our market. And I've stayed with Coldwell Banker for the whole 11 years since I've been here because, like Janice was saying, my managers, the management, the support I received, just the fact that I reached out to you, Jennifer, a while back and said, I want to be part of this, and here I am. The fact that whatever I've needed in my office, it's provided. If they can't do it, they'll lead me to someone. We have 3 offices in San Francisco, and we're all like one big family. Everybody helps each other out, the agents, the managers, the support. And that's something which, we all have, all of us, I think, have our names on speed dial from headhunters and recruiters, and I'm like, hey, I'm not going anywhere. I'm happy where I'm at, and thank you for calling.
Yeah, I love that, Antonio.
I think for me, honestly, it was not, really anything outside of just real estate related tools and technology and things of that sort. But to echo what the other panelists said, I mean, my manager, Mike Lippy, is rock star, and our management team and our support staff and everyone at the Sac Metro office or in our region is just been dynamite. And I've really grown to know that over the last 3 years of being with Coldwell Banker, that no matter what happens, I can call them up and they're going to help me out and really resolve whatever issue I may think may be going on. And so, and I think just in general, there is, we can have these deep conversations with our leadership team about some of these issues that we're discussing today, and their receptiveness to it and their openness to it, and them really reaching out and wanting us to be involved in different things. And so, I think whether I knew it or not, my wife always says, like, hey, you joined Coldwell Banker for a reason, and maybe I didn't know it initially, or I thought I knew it. It was all the agent tools, but it's really come to the fact of really the family and the core values that Coldwell Banker has. Is really, it's not just on paper, it's really in the everyday breath of the company.
Totally. Yeah. Well, and the company is made up of all of you. So you guys, bring so much to the table. I know all of you guys have kind of referenced some organizations that you're part of. And I think probably not everybody's aware. There's a lot of them and there's new ones coming all the time. So, as part of the organizations that you are involved in, can you talk a little bit about what kind of changes that they're driving both nationally and locally that you can kind of speak to kind of help some of our other agents understand what resources are kind of available? So if you could kind of speak to some of the involvement that you are part of, that'd be great. Aquontis, I'll just start with you. Oh, you're muted, I think. Okay. Janice, can you speak maybe? I know ARIA is something that you've been heavily involved with, right?
Uh-oh. Are we having issues?
Uh-oh. It's okay. I'm going back to you, Q. You want to talk about some of the involvement in the committees?
Yeah, so nationally, I'm a part of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, which is predominantly Black association that advocates for public policies that. I think we've got Janice.
That's okay.
So I'm a part of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, which advocates for public policies that protect and expand sustainable home ownership. as well as partnering with real estate trade groups, civil rights organizations, fair housing, and equal housing advocacy, as well as financial services and institutions that make sustainable homeownership for African Americans and other minorities realizable. Because when it comes to the wealth gap, people of color versus our white counterparts, there's a large percentage of homeownership between the two. And so we definitely advocate for those type of programs and policies that really make it easier for everyone to buy homes, for everyone to get into home ownership and build that type of wealth. Locally, I am a board member of Road to Reality, which is a nonprofit in Seaside, California, which gives opportunities to youth to get prepared for real life after school, as well as for my specific role with the company is to teach the community about how important home ownership is, how they can get into that, the different programs available, whether it be first-time homebuyer programs, loan assistance programs, and things of that nature, and to just how to be financially fit within the community and within their families as well. And then I'm also a board member of a group called HAL Recovery Services, which is based in San Jose, and it's to help those coming out of the prison system to get back into home ownership, or at least have a home somewhere to get into, because a lot of the times when people are released, they don't have anywhere to go. So, because of California's huge homelessness problem, we're advocating for helping those people, get into a house rather than just being thrown out on the street and, to fend for themselves. So those are some of the things I definitely do nationally and locally. And of course, on all my social channels, on my YouTube and everything, I talk about different things that you can do to get into home ownership, educating people about getting into home ownership, and just talking about what's going on in the market as well.
Great. Janice, I think you're back with us. I know we love technology, don't we?
We do. I'm using my phone now.
It's okay. It's totally working.
I'm part of the Chinese Real Estate Association and also ARIA. I've been attending ARIA conferences since every year at the national conference every year, probably for over 8 years or 10 years. It's been a long time. And the relationships that I've built there and have lasted a lifetime, I guess. So basically, we give referrals to each other. We also help each other while we're at these national conferences, and you get a lot of information that some people locally may not share with you. And with CREA, I was the past president and also the foundation, the founder of the foundation, where we donated a lot of different masks during the beginning of the pandemic. We have an annual real estate expo where we educate the consumer population in English and Chinese about topics from 1031 exchanges to real estate law updates. And also, I'm part of a Facebook group that we started. It's called the Coalition to Stop Unfair Legislative Practices. And so we have about 3,800 members, and that's one way we disseminate information about what's going on in California and how it affects property ownership.
That's great. And I think, there are a ton of acronyms, so just making sure. So ARIA is Asian Real Estate Association, right, Janice? And then what was the other one?
Asian Real Estate Association of America. CREA is the local Chinese Real Estate Association of America.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. Antonio, what kind of organizations are you involved in?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I'm really involved in and that kind of takes most of my time outside of real estate, and I'm also, my wife and I, we also own another business, is really Habitat for Humanity. And I do some other mentorship stuff for local foster youth, but mainly it's Habitat for Humanity and really working with our young professionals here in Sacramento, getting them prepared and ready for home ownership and we kind of touched on it earlier, getting their financial literacy up and doing different education kind of seminars and networking now that we're, kind of open back up here. So that's kind of the biggest thing that I really do outside of really, I'm very client centric. So I spend a lot of time with my clients.
Totally get it. Yeah, Louise, how about you?
Just several groups I'm involved with. Before I continue, I just want to remind everybody that all the groups mentioned so far are all inclusive, right? You don't have to be Asian to be in the Asian real estate or Black to be in non-rev. In San Francisco, I know for a fact that I've been involved with more programs through the Women's Council and the Asian Real Estate Association than anything else, because there really wasn't a NAREP, which is the National Association of Hispanic real estate professionals in the area. The closest one was about an hour plus so drive from here before Zoom, and so it wasn't really practical. Fortunately, through the work I've been doing through the SFAR, I met somebody who was starting a chapter of the NAREP in the East Bay, and so I've joined that one with the idea of forming a chapter at some point in San Francisco for local agents and who want to be involved. But like I said, I just want to reinforce the idea that anything is open to everybody. And, we love allies. We love people to support us. And anybody can join. And you'd be surprised how many good people and good experiences you'll have by just expanding your horizons a little bit.
Absolutely. Really, really good point. And for all of you guys, the involvement in the committees that you're involved in, kind of what has that meant to your business? Like, how I think sometimes there's so much of what we do that's very business related, and then there's so much of what we do that feels like we're all like everybody's time is really valuable. But like just personally and professionally, like what has that done for you guys being involved in those in organizations?
Well, for me, being involved in the different organizations, especially locally, it definitely gets my name out there and, brings me business. But I'm able to communicate with different community members, really connect with people and make new friendships and get to know all of the communities that I serve. Like I can't just bust into a community and be like, all right, I'm going to sell you a house, or hey, I'm going to take your house and put it on the market. I have to be a face in the community and actually be doing something for, to have that real trust and build rapport with people versus, okay, hey, just because you're an agent in the area and you talk to me, I'm gonna list with you, So it's definitely grown friendships, grown connections. And I've had, just people recognize me just because I'm out in the community, like, hey, you're Aquontis, right? I'm like, hey, how you doing? Yeah, that's me. So it's really nice to, beyond the professional part and business, beyond that is really nice to actually get to know people, be out in the community, make new friends, etc.
Absolutely. Janice, do you have any thoughts on kind of how that's been for you professionally and personally?
I think you're helping the community, and also at the same time you're building these friendships. So whenever you're making an offer on a property, you have a little leg up because they might try to help you win. And just meeting people that you otherwise may not have had the chance to, you get what you put in. So the more you put in, the more you may get out.
Yeah. Antonio, any thoughts? I know from you.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing of joining, whether it's Tap Humanity or any of these other organizations, is really, number one, networking, but two, like being receptive of what other people are doing out in their business or out in their communities, and what can you bring back to service your clients and your community with.
Yeah, absolutely. Luis?
Yeah, I'm going to request in future panels that I be the last one, because it's great. Everybody speaks for me and gives the answer. I can just say what they said. It's exactly it. It's knowledge. It's networking. There's something to be said, like Janice said, about meeting somebody, hopefully again sooner rather than later, face to face, and fellow agents, and you just feel comfortable when you're having a transaction or so forth. But everything, like they said, the knowledge and networking, I think, are the main takeaways from the different committees.
Yeah, I should have started from the other end, you guys, right? Like I should have mixed it
No,
up.
we're good.
Yeah, and I do think, like you guys said, I think there's so much of this that we have a tendency in our industry to get really tunnel visioned, right? Like we focus on our business and our clients and our community. And I think sometimes what we find is that we become better agents. We become just better people, right? Like when your perspective is expanded and you have an understanding of maybe what is happening at the market down the street or the community next to you or the groups that you maybe just didn't know. And I think so much of what a lot of these conversations are really centered around is some compassion to finding out like where someone came from and what they need to move forward. And you guys talked about this earlier. It's not just getting the house is like only part of the story, right? Like the house is just part of a lifestyle and a life we're trying to help people get equipped with. But I think whether it's, your clients, or it could be a seller or a buyer that you're in a transaction with, or the other agent, like I think the more we can really have a better understanding and just ability to work and help people elevate what they're doing in their home ownership or in their business just is really fabulous. So, well, I do want to leave a little moment here for some questions. Hey, Cammie, are you with us?
I sure am. Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Cammie Walton.
Hey there.
Hey
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's always awesome to hear your guys' stories. And I know we've talked a few times, but I'm so glad everybody else got a chance to hear about your background. Some good feedback here in the Q&A, and a lot of agents that have noticed and referenced the idea of how important education is in home ownership, and just as an industry, how we need more of that. So I guess the follow-up question here is, what if you're looking to become, if we're looking to inspire more advocates in diversity, equity, and inclusion within the industry, what advice would you give to that person to take that first step to becoming that advocate?
I guess I can start. So I think that, first off, you want to be open to ideas. Like, there's a very diverse crowd of people all over, and being able to connect with people and exchange ideas and brainstorm really allows you to kind of build that structure on being an advocate for, yourself, your community, everyone. And so, I would start with, making sure that you're open about, what or how to approach something, as well as being willing to be a voice. Like, like I mentioned, a lot of people are scared to be that voice. But the biggest thing, and this is something I was thinking about yesterday and preparing for this, is we really get to use our voice as power. We want to be someone rare, so that many different people will want to connect with us. If you're unoriginal, if you're copying someone else, no one will want to actually listen to what you have to say. So be original, and use your voice as power, and of course be open to ideas and brainstorming with others to help as a group, rather than, okay, I'm going to be that force, I'm going to do this, I. There's definitely a we when it comes to diversity and inclusion.
I would definitely follow up with that and agree that, keep an open mind, but also I think most importantly is simply show up. In Spanish, we have a saying, mañana, and it's always like tomorrow, tomorrow. Just show up today. Whatever it is that you're thinking of doing, just show up and do it. And you'd be amazed how easy it becomes once you take that first step. We always have great ideas of what we're going to do, but at least at this point in my life, years go by, so you got to grab the day and just go do it today or tomorrow as soon as you can.
Great. Antonio or Janice, did you have anything to add to that? All right. Next question, and this is more about systemic ways that we as an industry can still be impacting and making a difference and driving more home ownership, particularly for communities of minorities or color. And I know in the past we've had a ton of challenges with this, obviously, as an industry. What more can we be doing as a company to influence systemic change in this regard?
I think starting these kind of panel discussions and creating a group across Northern California or nationwide, as a company, is going to start make some of these changes possible.
I'd also say that, oh, go ahead, Lewis. No, you go ahead.
Thank you. I knew it was going to happen at some point in the panel, so luckily Q and I were able to have that awkward moment there. I would say definitely that mentorship support, which we all talked about getting from our managers, just to make sure that that continues on. And also having some kind of program for a kind of leadership track, something where when you see leadership, especially in communities that are more diverse or communities of color, and you see individuals with talent and potential, maybe put that extra effort to sort of let them know there's an opportunity that they can move on besides being the agent or the broker or so forth. I think that would be a very, very huge next step.
So I think the other part is that we need to start with the facts. The biggest thing that, we hold dear to is knowing our markets, knowing the numbers, knowing how many homes are on the market, how many homes have sold. But when we start to think about the broader systemic issues that we have, we need to know the facts. We need to know that 6% of real estate agents are Black. And I'm sorry to say it, but I'm the only Black real estate agent out of the offices that we have down here in Carmel. And so, when it comes to the numbers, as long as we know those numbers, we can start to talk about, okay, hey, here's the changes we need to make. Here's the things that we need to do. Maybe we need some more recruiting around, realtors that are of color to ensure that, hey, we're adding some diversity to our offices as well as advocating for our communities. We need to know how many homeowners are of people of color in our communities as well. And I think, instead of focusing, just nationally and statewide, we need to be hyper local, get involved in the communities and ensure that we're making a difference when it comes to teaching people about home ownership, how it's a fantastic way to build wealth, and just be that person in the community that's able to advocate for everyone. Because, a lot of the times we try and say, okay, hey, I'm in this group, I'm in this group, and I'm in this group, but what are you doing for your local community? If you're that expert in your local area, you should also be an advocate for your area.
Yeah, and I
Love
think
that.
Aquontis, something else that, like you mentioned, like this is not just something to put on a resume, right? Like this is something to actually use to drive change. And I think, all of you here and our agents that are watching, making sure that you, even within your offices, right? I think this is one of many conversations, and, we'll talk a little bit about this as we kind of close things up, but, this is not just a panel where we talk about it and then it goes away, right? This is something that we need to really have an ongoing conversation, make sure we've got people championing this in all categories. And so I think really leading this and being a voice in your offices as well is critical. I think we all have a responsibility to kind of elevate that. So yeah, because it's not just oh yeah, I'm involved in this, I'm involved in that. It's well, what are you doing with it, right? So that's the key point. Cammie, you got anything else for us?
Just one more thing, because I'm going to ask you all for it when we're done here, but everybody wants to get your social links to connect with each of you. So we'll make sure that we include that in the recap that is going to send out with the recording and some of the slides that Jennifer's going to talk through here as we close up. But Jennifer, take it away.
Okay, great. So yes, we will definitely, do you guys have just really quick, in this last minute, is there a social media platform you kind of love? I know, Q, you mentioned YouTube. I know you're kind of all over the place, but where is your favorite? Where's your favorite spot to be online on social?
So I'm definitely on Instagram every single day. You can find me at Aquontis Garlington Realtor on Instagram, and of course my link tree is there in my profile, like they like to say, link in bio, and where you can find my website and everything else.
Super cool. Janice, where do you love being on social?
I'm a little bit older, so I'm on Facebook all the time. And it's facebook.com/Janice F. Lee.
Love it. Love it. Antonio, what's your favorite channel?
You can find me on the good old IG at sacramento.realtor. Sacramento.realtor.
Love it.
And I'm really old, so I'm definitely Facebook. So at least Janice told people how to get to her page. With me, you have to take the little search bar and put Luis Moran, and you'll find me in there.
Oh, we're gonna have to send a smoke signal or something.
Coming soon. I would appreciate that.
We'll find your handle and include it. So, so a couple quick things, as I mentioned, we're going to send out a recap of this because, again, I think it's important for you guys to know how to get a hold of any of our panelists. So I think incredible stories. You guys are doing amazing things. So as agents that are watching today or that might be watching the recording, if they have questions for you or just want to reach out, might have questions on some of the committees that you're on, how to get involved, or maybe how to start one in their area, that would also be great. And of course, if they have clients that need a referral in your market, I know they would love to know how to get a hold of you there. So we'll make sure we share all of that. I think we also have a couple other quick slides we will go to. I just want to thank you to the panelists so much. I'm so impressed and so proud of all of you guys. I'm just like thrilled to even be on your team. So anyway, again, we'll send this all out so you know how to get a hold of everybody. Thank you for your time and dedication to doing this. And I know you've all are highly encouraged and motivated to help us in some future conversations. So really appreciate that as well.